What is going on, guys? It's Sean O'Connell, the managing director here at CinemaBlend, with a spoiler-free review of James Mangold's new film, Ford vs. Ferrari, coming to theaters near you. I'm going to tell you why you need to get out to a theater right now to go see this upcoming drama. But before we do that, of course, I want you to go down and hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, because every single time I post a review like this on CinemaBlend's YouTube page, you're going to want to come and watch it.
So the great Carroll Shelby is going to build a car to beat Ferrari with a Ford. Correct.
To start off this review of Ford vs. Ferrari, I want to point out that this is old school filmmaking. A lot of times we hear the comment, they just don't make movies like they used to. And nobody really knows what that means, because as each generation sort of evolves, what you think about as a movie from your past is totally different from what someone else might have thought. But there are traditional traits that every sort of great movie uses, and Ford vs. Ferrari is one of those films. It's an underdog sports competition film, just told in a different level. It's based on a true story about back in the 1960s when the Ford Motor Company was struggling in its sales department. They wanted to come up with a different way to get people excited about the Ford model. And so they approached two odd couple protagonists, Carroll Shelby, who's played by Matt Damon in the film, and Ken Miles, who's played by Christian Bale, and they tasked them with designing a brand new car for Ford that would be able to compete with Ferrari, Enzo Ferrari, in a race that his company had been dominating up to that point, called the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And it becomes a matter of national pride of can America beat Italy, essentially? Can the Ford Motor Company, which was a stalwart of American business, compete on the global level with a company like Ferrari, which was designing, obviously, some of the best cars of that time? James Mangold, in trying to tell this story, uses practical effects. He doesn't lean too heavily into CGI, and I think that makes a huge difference in trying to bring this story across, but he also invests it in well-drawn characters. We really get to know Ken Miles. We really get to know Carroll Shelby, and it's through those amazing performances that those characters stand out. We care about Henry Ford, even though he is sort of a business bureaucrat who really just wants to succeed so that he can sell more cars. We get invested in the competition. Mangold has said in recent interviews that, you know, you don't love Rocky the movie because you care about boxing. You love Rocky because you care about Rocky as a character. And I think that's kind of the case here with Ford vs. Ferrari, because I'm not a gearhead by any stretch, but I really got invested in the competition for these characters who I knew nothing about going into the movie, both Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles, and I wanted them to win in the race at the end. I was invested in the story. And so when I think they refer to old school filmmaking, it means character-driven stories about people that you care about and using practical effects to bring their story to the big screen. Naturally, in order for James Mangold to make us care about these characters, he has to recruit two amazing leads, and he does that in both Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Now, the only thing better for a movie than having one major movie star, I mean like a movie star with a capital M, capital S, is to have two major movie stars. And Bale and Damon have been able to carry their own films for years, but it's great when they work together in ensembles with other outstanding actors. These two have never worked together, and I find that to be pretty amazing because they end up having amazing chemistry. And they both play characters who are really integral to the story. It's not like one is there just to support the other and let them have a showy sort of standout role. Carroll Shelby needs to recruit Ken Miles in order for the Ford team to actually compete. But Ken Miles really needs Carroll Shelby to keep him grounded because he's a bit of a hothead. But both of these guys know that there's no way that Ford is going to succeed without the help of either of their contributions. And they're both different shades of competition, essentially. Like, Carroll Shelby knows that he has to essentially negotiate with the corporate side in order to get all the things that he wants, and Ken Miles knows that every once in a while he has to let his ego go if he's going to succeed behind the wheel of this car. You do kind of root for each of them to succeed on their own level, and you recognize the fact that they both have flaws that are going to potentially stand in their way of succeeding, and it's fun to sort of sit back and figure out how these actors are going to figure out ways to get around those flaws and those obstacles so that ultimately Ford has a chance to triumph when they get to the final race.
Just shut your mouth and let me do my thing.
All right.
Come here.
Morning, Shelby.
Morning, Molly.
I'm yours.
I'll go to hell.
One really interesting aspect about the fact that Damon and Bale are both so excellent in this movie is that I don't know what's going to happen come the Oscar season. I've been hearing that both of them are going to compete in the Best Actor category, and I kind of wish that Damon had gone down to the Best Supporting Actor category. That's quote-unquote category fraud, because they are both really important to Ford versus Ferrari, and they both give essentially lead performances. But Bale, to me, takes a slight edge in a photo finish appropriate to the movie, that I would consider him the Best Actor candidate. And the reason why I want to see Damon sort of go down to supporting actor is because I think by putting them both in the Best Actor category, they will take votes away from each other, and then ultimately neither of them might end up getting into Best Actor, even though they kind of deserve to be there. In a year of amazing male performances, there's a possibility that these two guys, Christian Bale and Matt Damon, might be on the outside looking in, even though they are both spectacular in Ford vs. Ferrari. If you guys have paid attention to any of my videos here on CinemaBlend, or paid attention to the Real Blend podcast that I do with my good friends Jake Hamilton and Kevin McCarthy, you know that we are huge proponents of the theatrical experience, of going out to the movie theaters and seeing a film like Ford vs. Ferrari on the big screen. This movie absolutely warrants a trip to the theater. Even if you were kind of casual of like, oh, that looks pretty interesting, I like those guys. I'm not invested in racing, but I'm sort of intrigued in what James Mangold might do. For this reason, the racing sequences are unbelievably compelling. And again, I live in NASCAR country, and I'm not interested in automotive racing in the least bit, but the way that Mangold films his racing sequences pulls you into the drama and the intrigue and the danger that comes with racing at these high speeds. In addition, the sound that he's able to mimic coming out of these sports cars, this is going to win the sound Oscar without a doubt. And as good as your home system may be, there's just something about the vibration coming through the speakers in a movie theater that rocks your seat and makes you feel almost like you're riding in the passenger seat alongside Christian Bale as he's competing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
You see it?
It was one of the most memorable theater-going experiences that I had this year in 2019, and it starts right off the bat. Like the sound of the engine is one of the first things you hear. It puts you back on your heels in a way that almost like the Jaws score starts right off the bat with that low hum, and you realize like, oh, I'm in for something special here. This is going to be something unique and different. Mangold uses the sounds of the cars to pull you into that story immediately, and I don't think you're going to be able to replicate that if you don't see Ford versus Ferrari on a big screen in a theater. I am giving James Mangold's Ford versus Ferrari a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason why it's not a total 5 out of 5 picture is because there's two characters that come across as pretty stock, and I don't want to really mention who they are because mentioning them almost reveals a little bit too much about the story, even though it's based on historical events and it's not like there are big twists or surprises. But I don't want to single out these two characters in particular, though they're not quite as fully formed as Bale and Damon's characters are in the film. Still, it's an outstanding film. It's right now at the bottom of my top 10 list. It's right there at number 10. But the reason why I bring that up is because every time I see another film, a new film, that's really, really good and warrants top 10 inclusion, and it means that something has to come out, I always make an excuse in my head to not remove Ford Ferrari. That's how much fun I had with this movie at the theaters. I really think you will too, and I think you need to go to the theaters and check it out. Give it a shot when it opens before you take off, or if you've been able to see Ford Ferrari at an early screening. Go down to the comment section. Tell me what you thought about the movie. I want to see if it resonated with you quite as well as it did with me. I think it's going to be an Oscar player. I just think it has the chance to be a really great crowd pleaser. It's one of those really well-made films that deserves your support. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section if you agree with that as well. While you are down there, go down and hit subscribe. Turn on your notifications. We're trying to interact with you guys all the time over videos that we post on the CinemaBlend YouTube page. So you can go down to the comments, tell us what you think, and just watch all the videos that we're posting here on a regular basis.